For 2 decades, since its inception, the Orange Democratic Movement was synonymous with one man, Raila Amolo Odinga.
Mimi Raila Amolo Odinga nimechoka. As of that opinion say aye. As many as of that opinion say aye. As many as of the contrary opinion say nay. The ayes have it.
Whose authority, not only within the party but within the party strongholds, was unquestionable. So far-reaching was his political influence in the party strongholds that if he held your hand for a party ticket,
hapa Budalangi ya babu na mamba,
you will win the nomination, you will get the nomination certificate, and you will consequently be elected in that particular seat that he will endorse you for. And his political tentacles were so far-reaching that he picked up persons who are of little influence or who are little known in the political sphere and turned them into political giants. When Raila Amolo Odinga died in 2025, the Orange
The king is dead, but long live the crown. Joey! Joey! Joey!
The Orange Democratic Movement lost its mediator, lost its chief negotiator, and lost the glue that held the party together even during a crisis. A crisis such as the one when William Rutto left the Orange Democratic Movement claiming he was not being respected enough in the party and left with all the Rift Valley MPs.
We are ready. Muko tayari ama muko tayari? If they insist, tutarudi kwa wananchi ili tuone hii ODM umaarufu wao uko wapi.
Even if Rutto walked out with a bunch of his MPs who will not go beyond 15, that does not hurt ODM. We will still be the largest party.
The party still held intact because the glue was the Orange Democratic Movement leader then, Raila Amolo Odinga. He steered the party through the turbulent times. But when he died, the party split into different factions. And 2 major factions have emerged. One is the broadbased faction supporting the broadbased arrangement, led by Governor Wanga of Homa Bay, then led by interim party leader Oburu Odinga, and greatly championed and vehemently defended by the cabinet secretaries who were appointed into government as a result of that arrangement.
As the ODM party, we have no regret. We have no regret for joining the broad-based government.
I'm not very happy that when we pass resolutions here, some of the members of this committee, some of the members of the Central Committee, who are policy makers of this party, go out to say exactly the contrary of what we have agreed in committees.
I think what Raila said is Adani has done some projects in some places and can be seen. Like in Mumbai, they have done an airport, an excellent airport. Whether they corrupted, that one we cannot know.
The other faction is the faction that supports the one-term movement. The movement that calls for the removal of the current president, William Samoei Rutto. That faction is led by 2 major persons in the party. One being the former Secretary General of the party, ousted not so long ago, and one being an influential party and political mobilizer, Babu Owino. This faction believes that there was no formation of a broad-based government, but there was actually a memorandum of understanding that was signed between the government and the ODM party to implement the 10-point agenda that the broad-based committee came up with.
Nataka niwaambie mimi niko ngangari. Kama Sifuna mimi niko ngangari, siwezi kutishwa na mtu yoyote. Mimi nataka niwaambie mimi tu. Ai bwana, afadhali waniue.
There is no way how ODM can bembeleza Rutto. I can tell you.
We'd left it at the issue of the broad-based government. Where do you stand on this broad-based arrangement as of today? We spoke about this, but that was in July. Today, January, or is it February 2026, do you support this broad-based
My
arrangement?
position will never change on the broad-based government, because the explanation that was given for why we got ourselves into this arrangement has never changed.
Wangapi wanafurahia kutukaribisha siku ya leo? Asanteni sana. Mimi niko na mambo machache. Na la kwanza, tunasema ni ya kwamba baada ya baba ni babu. Na ni babu kwa babu. Na bila babu kuna Asanteni sana. Sasa nataka niwaelezee hivi wananchi wa Kawangware. Hapa Dagoretti North, nataka niwaulize yule mama ambaye anauza kwenye ile duka, yule kijana ambaye anaendesha bodaboda pale, yule mzee wangu ambaye anaenda kwenye jua kali pale, niwaulize swali moja. Umeona broadbased nyumba yako? Broadbased wamekulipia fees? Biashara yako imeinuliwa?
Every single discussion that comes up, we in broad-based. I want to remind them that the broad-based is based on a 10-point agenda.
These two factions do not see eye to eye. As one is led by the old guard that believes the status quo where the party leader left them at must remain, and it is now pitted against the younger and more energetic faction of the party led by the younger Turks, and also supported by some members of the old guard like Siaya Senator James Orengo, who believe that the party must dissociate from the actions of the government and who believe that the government did not honor the 10-point broad-based agenda. The party is divided as we currently stand. The immediate former Secretary General of ODM, Edwin Sifuna, is fiery, is young, is energetic, but he's also an intelligent political actor who understands that there are consequences to rebellion against the old guard in the party and against the status quo, basically, which, by the way, is shown because he has already been shown by the door by the old guard-controlled National Executive Council of ODM. He is an agitator for dissociation with the government, and he was a vocal voice during the Gen Z maandamanos and during the Sufuria movement led by ODM to protest against the ills of this government. Babu Owino, on the other hand, who is co-leading the one-term faction in ODM with Edwin Sifuna, is the Member of Parliament for Embakasi East, a young, energetic, great political mobilizer who learned how to mobilize and honed his skills of political mobilization all the way back to his days as the SONU chairman in the University of Nairobi. James Orengo, on the other hand, is practically a member of the old guard because he has been with Raila Amolo Odinga for quite some time. But where he draws the line is the part where ODM joins government and refuses to call out the ills of the government and the failures of the government. He has been in unison with the younger part of the party to oppose the joining of the party to the government and refusing to call out the ills of the government because they are in government. His ideological stand represents the soul of the ODM party, because the Orange Democratic Movement was formed as a strong party to put in the checks and balances for the government. And every time they call out the government, they must be heard because they have political influence in this country. The broad-based faction of ODM is led by Gladys Wanga, who is the governor of Homa Bay and a political giant in the Nyanza region, whom Raila Odinga was a great supporter of and played a central role in nurturing her political career. After being the women rep for Homa Bay County, she eventually became the governor. On the other side of the broad-based government faction of ODM, she is now supported and her hand is held by Oburu Odinga, who is the brother to the late former Prime Minister Raila Amolo Odinga and the former leader of the party. He has been one who has always benefited from his brother's political influence, that even when he is not running for any seat, he was always nominated to parliament. So he is one of the greatest beneficiaries of the broad-based government arrangement, as even one of his sons is appointed in government as a result of that arrangement. And these two are the most vocal when it comes to the defense of the broad-based government arrangement, because they benefit from it. Gladys Wanga, on one hand, benefits with projects from the national government, which gives her political mileage because she would want to seek a second term. And rumors circulating around her, she may be the person eyeing for the deputy presidential seat should UDA and the Orange Democratic Movement come up with a workable plan for the 2027 election, so that she represents the other side of the broad-based government as the deputy president, which, truthfully speaking, is such a lucrative seat and an enviable one. And who wouldn't want to be deputy president of the republic? That is why she stands and defends the broad-based government so vehemently. And also, the CSs from ODM, John Buddy, who is the CS of Treasury, which now gives him political impetus and political mileage. He cannot accept to leave the government. He defends the government tooth and nail on the side of the broad-based faction of the ODM party. The major bone of contention between these two factions of the party lie within the view of each side of this divide to the broad-based government. How they see, how they understand the broad-based arrangement is what exactly causes the friction within the party. You see, Sifuna's and Babu Owino's side believe that the broad-based government arrangement was limited to the implementations of the 10-point agenda up to and not limited by the compensation of the victims or who are of the Gen Z protests, some who were killed, some who were maimed, some who spent months in hospital. And basically, the government doing something to ensure that the efforts by the Gen Z protests are recognized and the necessary reforms are done within government to ensure that those protests were not done in vain. Babu Owino, Edwin Sifuna, James Orengo believe that the appointment of ODM members into the William Rutto's cabinet was a pure and clear betrayal of the Gen Z protests that demanded change, that demanded an overhaul of government, that actually demanded the stepping down of the current president, William Samoei Rutto. As the most famous slogan of those protests was, Rutto must go, and reject the 2024 finance bill of the country. They believe those appointments were a betrayal. They believe that members of ODM sitting at the same table, having the same meal with the government, was a betrayal of the young people of this country who believed the country was headed to the wrong direction, and that direction must be changed. Who believed that their lives were not greater than the change they required in the country, than the direction they required to be implemented in the country, not just for them, but for the sake of the future generations of this country and for the sake of the stability of this nation. Oburu Odinga's side and Gladys Wanga's side sees the broad-based government from a very different lens. They believe that the broad-based arrangement should not be limited to the 10-point agenda, but should actually be extended. They have even advocated to negotiate with the government and William Samoei Rutto for a higher position, not limited to, but they really want the deputy presidency in the government that they may form in 2027 if they agree on a workable political formula, and also believe they should be given more PSs and more CSs. The Oburu team, the Gladys Wanga team, which represents the broad-based faction of the ODM government, or of the broad-based government, believe that this continuous dalliance with the government, that this continuous working with the government gives them the political impetus to walk the corridors of power, gives them the necessary resources they need to run the party, and it also gives them political mileage to help them build the party. And this is where the bone of contention between these two factions of ODM lie.
The king is dead, but long live the crown. Joey! Joey! Joey!